Hi, today I want to share an example of how we're going to submit a file to the marker. So this is one of the first labs from a couple of our Intro C courses, and this is actually the BTM version for Bachelor of Technology Management, and they want it submitted as BTM 200W1 lab. There's the output that the program should have up there in yellow, and I've written the program over here. In order to submit it for marking, what we have to do is we have to transfer the C program from the Windows machine over to a Unix machine where it's going to be marked. Okay, in order to do that, we use a program called Winscp, which I'm going to start. And it's got a login. You fill in matrix.senecacollege.ca, which is the name of the Unix machine. And then your name is the username. I've already got that set up, so I don't have to do it. You just click login. It goes, says continue, put in your password. Click OK. And at that point, the contents of your Windows machine are on the left panel, and the contents of your Unix machine are on the right. Okay, so I've already navigated to where the source code is, which they put it in a strange place if you don't specify. Under my name, source repos, and this was just let it, I just created project 5, and in the subdirectory under project 5, I wrote a file called main.c, which has got the little printf in it that prints it out. Okay. Now I'm going to create a library, or a directory, over here on the Unix side by saying new directory. I'm just going to call it lab1. Hold the files for lab1. I'm going to double click that to go into it, and I'm going to move main.c over because that's where I put my code. Before I do that, I'm going to switch the transfer mode to be text, and to do the transfer, all I'm going to do is drag and drop, and that's it. So at that point, I've moved my C file over to the Unix machine, and it's almost ready to be submitted. If I had other files like .h files or reflect.txt, I would drag and drop them in the same way so that everything is in the same directory on the Unix machine before I actually do the submit. Okay, so at that point, I'm ready to do a remote login to the Unix machine, make sure my program works, and check everything out. So let's go to the Unix machine with remote login, and the command for that is a program called putty. And putty will let us log into the remote machine. I've got a matrix account set up, but all you do is type matrix.senecacollege.ca. Up there is the host name. Make sure it says SSH and click open. It wants a username. Then it wants your password. And you hit enter after each of those. And after a short wait, it's logged you in. You change directory to lab1 because that's the directory we put it in, and cd changes the directory, so you say cd space lab1, and if you type ls, it'll list our files. Okay, so we got our files listed. This looks good, but we go back and look at our assignment, which was around here somewhere. Let me just find the assignment. It was there. And it said they don't want it called main.c. They want it called w1_lab.c. So I'm going to rename it on the Unix machine. And to rename a file, we use the move command, or mv. And I'm just going to say move main.c to w1_lab.c, which is what they wanted it called. That renames it. Just check, make sure it's the right name, w1lab.c. Yep, that's right. If I do ls, you will now see that That's the only file there. Now, next, we want to make sure it compiles correctly on the Unix machine. So to do that, I'm going to use the GNU C compiler, which is GCC. And I'm going to say w1 underscore lab.c, since that's the file I want to compile. And I'm going to put my output in, doesn't really matter what you call it, I'm just going to call it w1. Because it's short, and that will create a file called w1 that's got the contents of the compiled program. So we'll see if this works. Okay, it won't, no error messages, it worked. If we type ls again, we now see there's a file called w1, and if we type w1, it runs our program and says, welcome to C programming. Okay, at that point, we've got, reasonable assurance that everything's going to work. So we kick in the submitter by doing what it says just below. It says squiggle your prof's name, which is whoever your prof is, /submit, and then the name of the lab, which in this case was BTM200 W1 lab. And that'll change depending which lab you're doing and who your prof is and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so it gives you a time. It says continue. If it's not valid for submission at that time, you'll get an error message. And so I click enter and it says, okay, I compiled your program. There were no errors or warnings. If there are, it'll tell you what they were at that point, and you can go and fix them. In fact, it'll tell you, here's your output in a file, and here's what we were looking for, and here's the differences, and you should go and correct whatever your mistakes are. It's extremely picky. It's going to be looking for an exact character-by-character match. So you may have to play with it a little. You may have a new line that should be there or shouldn't be there, or an extra space or something. It's looking for exact outputs. You're going to have to play with it a little. But once you get it, you'll get success, no errors or warnings. And so it's compiled the program. Now it's going to compare it against the output. A lot of these programs will now require, once you press enter again, they're required to enter test data from your assignment. If you have to do that, you're going to have to type it in exactly as the assignment puts it, and that'll generate the right output, and then it'll get compared. This particular program doesn't have any input. It just prints out a line of text. So I'm just going to press enter, and it says, hey, the outputs match. So we're lucky. And as I said, if they don't match, it'll tell you what's wrong, give you both files, your output and the output it was looking for, and then you can figure out what the difference was. So now it says, do you want to submit this? It only gives you this option if it all works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't even let you submit. So at this point, I'm simply going to type yes, and then it says, thank you, your work is now submitted, and it's send a copy by email to your prof, and if it was configured, to probably send a copy to you. So that's everything. That's how you use the submitter. To get out of this program, you just type exit. That'll kill your remote connection. And then if you go back to Winscp, click the little arrow up in the right, and that will terminate that, and you're now disconnected from the remote machine, and your work is submitted, and you're good to go. Okay, so that's how you use the submitter. Thanks for listening.